And welcome back to Talent Gone Wild with Best Entertainers and our hosts, Vic and Lou.
Hi, everyone. You are facing disasters all over the country. And West Coast, sorry about the fires, and the East Coast, you have your stuff going on. And we have floods in Houston. That's our big thing. We have hurricanes in the Gulf. But mostly in our area, we have a lot of floods. And so this show is going to be about those kind of disasters and how to deal with them. And it's going to be called The Show Must Go On. So we were both together during Allison, and Allison flooded for 4 days.
It was a tropical storm that took Houston by surprise. It was supposed to pass over us, and it decided to sit over us for 3 days and dumped, I don't even remember how many inches of rain. It was a lot like Harvey.
Yeah, Harvey was a little bit worse because it kept on coming, and it didn't give the ground any chance to soak up.
And it wasn't as widespread as Harvey.
Right.
But Allison was. It hit downtown Houston, it hit Southwest, it hit South.
We had an employee who broke his foot, something like that. Anyway, he injured his foot, and we went to visit him in the hospital on Thursday, was it? When it just started. And I had a show with my DJ partner, Ernie T, the Funky Child. At the time, we were Rockin' Lou, the Jivin' Jew, and Ernie, the Funky Child. And we went all over the country because we had come up with this interactive concept. And we were doing a couple of conventions that weekend and then a bar mitzvah on Saturday. Yeah. Thursday, we had our kids with us. We went to the hospital, and then we went to do some things in the Montrose area, is kind of our Austin 6th Street or or New York's Broadway, or Montrose is
it's more like Haight-Ashbury. It's funky, it's cool, it's historic. That's what it was back then.
Yeah, before Midtown really burst out like it is now. But at the time, Montrose was really the cool place to go, and we were in that area, and the rain really started coming down, and we were at a restaurant. Mm-hmm. And then
actually we pulled into the restaurant because we couldn't go anywhere, so we decided to go eat something. It looked like the rain was going to pass. This is before you had apps that could tell you what the weather was going to do. And then after we visited our friend, the next day we decided to maybe we'd go shopping and pick up some supplies. And when we got into our neighborhood, we saw the way the water was rising. We said we better just stay put. And then that Thursday night, you had something.
But we were parked on this short incline parking lot, right off the street, right up to the restaurant. So we were like this, and the water was coming up.
Yeah.
Sorry to get in your face there. And I had a show to do, and we had to get the show set. It was a full sound and light show. So I had to call up Ernie and say, hey, I'm blocked in. I'm not going to be able to get out of here. So he drove to the office, picked up the Best Entertainers van, picked up the sound and light equipment, drove out there, and that was
set it up. Yeah.
That was about a 20-minute drive, a nice 20-minute drive away. So we knew with the rain it was going to be a lot worse. Yeah. Finally it started stopping and settling down, but still the streets had
very heavily flooded. Yeah,
had at least a couple of feet of water. In Houston, a flood has to be at least a couple of feet of water, or else we don't even consider that a flood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had to drive out to that, and I made it just in time, and thank goodness Ernie had the show all set up. And we thought, okay, great, Thursday, that's done.
Yeah, the thing's not supposed to stay. So I wake up Friday morning and I turn on the news, And I'm looking at the pictures and I'm going, why are all these trucks in the bayou? What the heck happened? And it was I-10. It was the freeway, and the freeway was so full of water, almost to the tops of these trucks.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and went, holy cow.
And this happens
incredible.
a lot during the floods in Houston because the freeway sloped down.
Yeah, they're meant to drive the water out of the houses and out of the living areas, but this was very unexpected. They weren't used to tropical storms just sitting on you and not being able to detect it before it happened. So I get a call. We have we have more than 2 events, but 2 of the events in particular had a lot of people flying from out of town. And Friday night was, they were honoring this gentleman down at the Majestic Metro downtown.
Right.
And
I had to MC that event.
He was the MC, and the lady calls and goes, we're going ahead with it. And I'm like, how's he going to get there?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, how in the world is he going to get to the event?
All the freeways are blocked.
Every freeway was blocked.
And by the way, back then they didn't have, now they have these signs that tell you how many feet the water is under the freeway at your sign. So you might be at 6 feet of water on that freeway. They didn't have that back then.
Underpasses and stuff, yeah. Anyway, he made it.
I had to take a bunch of back roads all around this area, which is kind of the hippie area called the Heights, which is old Houston. Houses dating back, some of them to
Victorian,
the 1800s.
Yeah, beautiful. So you went all the way around the Heights to get to downtown.
I had to go all around to go up and then down because the high water is there. So I had to go down into downtown that way.
Go around basically the city to get to downtown.
And then she's worrying that, because it started raining again.
It started raining again, yeah. So then the next day, which was a Saturday, we had a bar mitzvah, and Lou and Ernie at the Omni Fort Riverway. And
now this is also a place where it's almost like a country club kind of hotel.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, but to get to the parking lot, it goes from the road down.
Slopes way down. Beautiful greens, if you can imagine, rolling hills, and then there's a swimming pool at the bottom. And we get up to the
And the
top
parking lot is all undercover, but way down.
Way down and in the back of the hotel.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where we had to load in, was way down there and around the side of the hotel. So we tried to go down there, and as we could, in a big van, we could see that already the water was coming up to the hood. So we came back up and went, okay, how are we going to do this? We had to go around the street to the back and then find another way in. And if we didn't do that, we would have had to hand carry things.
Well, you couldn't have, because the water was at least 12, 15 feet deep once you hit
we
the
were
bottom.
strong boys.
I mean, you
we
look
would
at that
have
thing,
lifted
it
the
was
stuff
like-
over our heads. Just carried it like pack animals.
Yeah,
through
no, it was
the floodwater.
But then when they get there, there's no power at the hotel.
Right.
So what they've done is they had these emergency generators, and they funneled them all to the top ballroom and the kitchens, basically. Elevators weren't working. All the gear, this is pre-LED, pre-DVD.
Yeah.
And very, very heavy gear, very heavy speakers, big amps.
Yeah, we had to carry the equipment up these stairs, up 2 flights of stairs. So we were carrying, at the time, we didn't have as easy a system as we have now. And so we had to carry amplifiers and separate speakers and separate sound equipment and separate light equipment. And all that, and still set it up so that
no
it would
dollies.
work. Then we had to, and we were doing a video show too. So we had to figure out which one of the plugs we could use before we were draining them, because generally at a hotel, unless the engineer is on site, they are not going to know how much electricity is in what area of the space.
Where the separate circuits are. And then running on generators. Now these were big generators, and they really did funnel most of the power for that event.
Yeah.
Other than the rooms. But yeah, they went ahead with the party because everybody had flown in from out of town.
Well, not quite. What happened was we set up everything,
Yeah.
and then they told us that we needed to plug in our video into the wall on the side, or someone did. I don't remember who did. So we plugged it in, and everything was set, and then a surge came, and it blew out the projector. So I had to call Victoria,
That's right.
and then Victoria had to drive all the
I'm
way.
driving all the way through this, and then I get
Not
to
in
the
a
top
van.
of the no, in a regular car, and then I get to the top of the hill, and I see this beautiful lake, and I see the top of the hotel at the end of the beautiful lake, and I'm like, what? And I'm trying to figure out where the pool is and where the rolling hills are, and I call these guys, and they go, no, you got to go around the back entrance. It's drier up there, a little higher. Come in that way.
In the
I was
meantime,
amazed. I'd never seen that much water at all, ever. It was amazing.
and the family is there,
Yeah, they're
and
all
they
in the
expect
hotel.
everything is set up, and we're asking them about changes in the program because now that people are coming later, they want to do, thank goodness, the video presentation later on in the evening, which we can do that. We can certainly do that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we're going, when is Victoria going to show up?
I got there, yeah.
So
It was amazing. It was really amazing. And it went great. I mean, most of the people were staying at the hotel, thank goodness. And then there were the locals, and they either didn't come or they figured it out. But it was a good sized party.
I'll tell you something that really saved us and every DJ should have this, is a surge tester.
Yeah.
So you can see which circuit will work and which is a good circuit.
Tester,
right.
Yeah.
So you take these circuit testers and I found this out when we were doing the Super Bowl. We were doing the Super Bowl, and Victoria was in charge of most of the events around the Super Bowl and the hospitality events.
All the hospitality suites, like 36 suites.
Right, and not all of the venues
And concert areas.
were the hotels and stuff like that. So I plugged into one wall circuit and knocked out that circuit. So I had to figure out another circuit, and thank goodness everything we have is on surge protector and then surge protector. So our equipment is on a general surge protector that everything goes through, and then we have it go into a surge protector on the floor, which takes the other electrical lines. And so that surge protector burned out on the floor, but I was able to replug it into the surge protector in our system. And I learned after that, always carry around a circuit.
This kind of reminds me of the time where there was recorded sound on a video you were doing, and the sound went out, and you live mixed the sound to the video. Yeah. Because you'd had it memorized on what you were doing, and so you worked it out. Well, it's like always be ready for anything. If anything can go wrong at any time, it will. So be prepared.
Well, that's actually interesting because that happened the same. I was in an auto accident.
Oh yeah. Bad one.
And yes, and what happened was. After the auto accident, they took me to the hospital and they found out.
Now we're talking different date, this was like years earlier.
No. This was the week that happened.
Oh.
Yes, this is the week that happened. And what happened was
that early.
So I was on Monday, I was in an auto accident. I'm sorry, my bad. I was in the auto accident that weekend. And I called up Victoria and I said, I just had an auto accident, and could you send Ernie out to do my show? And she did that. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, that wasn't a big show. But then I was at the hospital. I found out that I had a shattered ankle. And when they say you have a shattered ankle, what does that mean? How many bones is that? I said to the doctor, what is that? Shattered. And 10 broken bones, 20 broken bones. He said 10, 20, 30, 40, who's counting? And
he really did. They weren't sure you were going to walk again. They weren't
Right.
sure. Yeah, they were painting a really rosy picture.
Yeah.
So you spent all that week on the floor.
That wasn't just it. I broke that ankle, and then I went to start working on that video.
Right.
So it was one of these videos where you put the whole life of the family into the video, and we
Pre-digital.
Right, pre-digital.
Scan every picture
At
in.
92, you had to scan everything in and count how many seconds it was scanned in. I want like 5 seconds on each picture or 3 seconds on each picture. And so because my leg was shattered, I was laying down on the floor and using the different equipment, monitors, everything like that from the floor. And I kept on having problems. So we went to the hospital again and then found out that I had broken 2 bones in
Ribs.
Two ribs. And then I was feeling, later on in the week, I was feeling bad again. So we went and I found out I had a broken nose. So I kept on finding out that I had worse problems, but I was so concentrated on the show that week that I wasn't feeling the pain as much unless I rested. And so then we had the bar mitzvah, and I had to use not a walker. It looks like I'm using a walker, but
You used a cane.
yeah, no, I used the
Stool?
what are
Oh,
those arm pieces?
crutches.
The crutches, yeah. So I was using crutches, and I was using my younger brother had broken his foot, and I was using his crutches. You know, I'm a Jew, so reuse everything. And so I was using the crutches and crutching into the show, and we were doing the show, and then that music hadn't transferred. So I had to do everything live. And so I was thinking about, okay, which CDs had I used and which clips had I used? And so I knew exactly what bit of music I used. So I was just,
Lining it up.
just really just
crazy.
doing it right then and there.
Yeah.
And after the show was over, and our shows are very physical, and Ernie, at the time, I was the front guy, and then that was the very first show where Ernie had to be the front guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he took it over beautifully. And he was doing all the line dancing and all the comedy, and we were back and forth joking, but he was doing all the heavy work. And so we did this show, and after the show, I passed out. I had so much energy into the show. As soon as I was over the show, I just passed out. And then Ernie was like, he thought I was kidding around. He thought I was resting. And he had to wake me up. And show must go on.
Yeah. Like when I got the flu with Steve Wyrick's show.
Right.
Whenever I was passing the flu. Anyway, that's a whole other story.
Or the time you were mugged.
Oh, yeah.
I got a call at a bar mitzvah that my wife had been mugged. And that's...
it was fine. I mean,
But it wasn't so fine for you.
Well...
And you didn't tell me, you didn't lead me on to think that it was as terrible as it was, but she was robbed in our driveway, inside our garage by someone. And if I had known that, I would have come back immediately. But she said, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Show must go on, right?
Yeah. Well, when I called you initially, I was like, oh, why? I shouldn't be calling him right now. This can wait, But it was, normally I pull in all the way and let the garage door come down. And this is the one time I didn't. The guy apparently was just in our neighborhood and saw an opportunity. And first time I had a gun to my head. Yeah. Anyway, but I was like, I never call anybody with bad news while they're in the middle of the show. There's nothing they can do, unless there is something they can do. It's like there's nothing they can do. They want to finish their thing, and then they can learn all about it.
That reminds me of the time my favorite uncle dies. I drove over and said goodbye to him, and then had to go to a show right after that,
wow.
a children's show for a number of different schools, and sponsored by Fuddruckers, which I love Fuddruckers, by the way. And they catered, and you just have to put things out of your head. You just have to leave those outside and say, okay, this is what I'm focusing on. And, you know,
this is an important day in these people's lives.
Right.
And, you know, they've gotten their friends and family together for this, and it's important to them. And we don't want to contribute to anything going wrong. You know, when things go wrong at this level, it's all behind the scenes. It's like anybody who's been in theater knows that the week before a show goes on, everybody's like, how in the world is this show ever going to look good? And then boom, it all comes together. So yeah, a lot of it's experience, a lot of it's dumb luck, but a lot of it's preparation too.
You know, in this city, Houston, we have every kind of person, every kind of show. We have venues that are really beautiful 5-star hotels. And then we have venues that are, you know,
Strip centers.
little, right. And VFW halls, which are very pleasant, by the way, but, you know,
Can be good audiences.
they're not 5-star hotels. And we have little barbecue joints, and we have just about anywhere you could have a show, people's backyards. And we've had, you know, big events in people's backyards, but you should see their backyards.
Yeah.
We've had huge tents in people's backyards. It's Houston. We have some of we have probably the largest immigrant population of any city,
Well,
next to New York.
next
I
to
would
New
think.
York, yeah, probably.
And we
We're
have,
almost even.
well, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've had, you know what, I have met more different cultures living in Houston than going out to any other city ever, and performing in other cities. And I've performed just recently. I was flown all around the country doing shows for one of the airlines.
Mm-hmm.
And one group I performed for there was all soca music, because it was all that group. And another group was all Brazilian music. And another group was all Mexican music. And so we play for every community, and I've met every community. You know, we had we had a show for a Nigerian group here, and I was somewhat familiar with Nigerians because
You've done a couple weddings.
well, not just that, but okay, I was married before Victoria, and she basically said, you know, I want you to leave right away. And so I had to find an apartment. I found an apartment. At the time I had a club, and so I wanted to be across from the club. And there were these Nigerian people who lived right across from me. And so from my balcony, I could see them, and they were always having these great parties going on. So one time I'm on the balcony and I'm listening to this music I'd never heard. And the lady over there says, you like this? And I said, yeah, I love it. I love it. She said, well, come on over. And she introduced me to all this fantastic music. And I love that. Anytime anyone shows me, teaches me any kind of new music, I instantly love them. So I had nothing but great experiences with Nigerian people. And we had an event. We were called by this Nigerian community to do a anniversary of the World Music Festival, which
From their community.
Right.
It was from their community in Nigeria. Yeah.
But it was a celebration of the World Music Fest that they had in Nigeria. Nigeria had a revolutionary music festival that Stevie Wonder went to years before, and some of Stevie Wonder's music had come out of that festival. So they wanted to do something to celebrate that, and it was going to be a large event in Houston. And so
they rented out a theater,
Right.
an actual big theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they called us in September, and they said we'd like to have it next month. Actually, I'm sorry. They called us in July, and they wanted it in September. And I called up a manager. I have been a manager of some major talent, so I called up a manager of just to see, because I love Kelly Rowland. I think Kelly Rowland is the most amazing musical talent. And so I just wanted to see if she might be in Houston around that time. And I found out that she did want to be in Houston around that time, and she didn't have any events going on. And at the time she was going for $75,000, but the client only had $25,000. And I said, look, I will bring her in. I said, look, I will take her in, no commission, anything. I'll make this as pleasant as I can for her. Just to be in the presence of Kelly Rowland for me was enough. So the manager said, let's see if we can work this out, and we did. And so I called up the client and I said, if you want this to happen, I have to know. I have to contract it immediately. And they said, let's go, let's do it. So I called up the agent and I said, I spoke with the manager and we can do this. And I think you need to get in touch and let's see if we can do this. Then they call back and they say, you know what? We can't do it in September. It's just too soon.
Why?
No, it was by then. It was August.
Oh yeah.
It was
That's
coming up.
Had gone, yeah.
So they couldn't do it, and I had to call up the agent and the manager, and it was very, very embarrassing because they were doing an outrageous favor and deal to make this happen. And
Thank goodness, though, you have good relationships with the national managers.
Yes, I do. Thank goodness. And also, years later, Kelly Rowland I had a TV idea, and I brought that to Kelly Rowland's team, and she was still interested. So that didn't happen, but it's still, in fact, it was something very much like she later did with her judging on TV. So So anyway, we did this. We were going to have to change the date of the Nigerian festival, and we did it. And with that amount of money, we couldn't get Kelly Rowland, but we got En Vogue and we got a number of other talents, and we were very, very excited.
And actually, the person that En Vogue was just as lovely can be, and vocally they were amazing. Mm-hmm. And my favorite part actually was a Nigerian author by the name of Chimamanda, who spoke so beautifully and eloquently and read from her books. And she's a MacArthur Award recipient and just a beautiful, beautiful woman. So just listening to her was fantastic. It was culturally, it was a very unusual event. I think just like in Samoa, some of the Nigerian families are considered the chiefs of their own families. So you have all these rulers that are independent, and time doesn't seem to have any meaning to them. So in the middle of who's that?
Now, wait a second. This is going to have some problems because we said this is all about the show must go on, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about publicity and marketing when you're working when you're working with fundraisers, when you're working with charities. Now, I spoke to the charity and I said, I just called up the radio stations and they're very excited about Trey Songz coming out because Trey Songz just had an album. And then En Vogue was putting together a new album.
At the time, that's right.
At the time, and they hadn't had a new album in 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
So it was really exciting to the radio stations, and they wanted to publicize Trey Songz and En Vogue coming into town. So I called up the group and I said, hey, this is very exciting. We could get a lot of tickets sold this way. We could get a lot of people in. I could also go to the colleges and tell them about what's happening, and they'd be very excited about coming because Trey Songz is very hot right now. And so they said no, because they had a very large Nigerian community.
And they had their own marketing person.
And they had their own marketing person.
And that wasn't our job anyway. You know,
No.
Lou just was going the extra mile and saying, hey, talk to these people. We already know that, you know, you can publicize here.
Right. And here's their name and number. And
Yeah.
go ahead and let me know if I can do anything for you. Because it wasn't my job. My job really started and stopped with getting the talent, getting all of the things that the talent wanted to make them happy, and put together the best show that they could. Like we had to get a sound system for Trey Songz, and we had to set it up in a certain way, which was good because we had all of that equipment. And so
same for En Vogue.
Right, and make sure also that once Trey Songz was finished, we had a group that could instantly take their stuff out and get En Vogue on. And also we had to make sure the green rooms were good. And, you know, of course you have to make sure that you get them from the airport, bring them to a nice place. All of those things, that was my job. And stage managing their show, and that was it. But the show must go on. And so that wasn't quite what happened with this show. Yeah, we found out a couple of days before the show happened that they were going to have this big food area, and they were going to have a lot of people in that food area, and they were going to have a lot of dance groups that were going to come in before the
main acts.
The main acts, and we were not as excited about that because we didn't know what that was going to entail.
Especially when one of the dance groups showed up at the very end of the show in the middle of En Vogue and decided that they still had to go on. We're like, no, En Vogue's the headliner. Nobody goes after En Vogue.
You can't go.
Sorry.
And I had to do the sound for these different groups. Well, I found out also I was going to get the sound just before the show, and I went, no, that's not going to happen. We have to have some kind of rehearsal. So I called a rehearsal, and we did that. They gave me all their music, which was on different formats, and fortunately I have everything in the world, cassette players and CD players and computers, and we were able to accommodate that, but only because I called those people up and I said, what do you have? What are you going to give me? How do I make you look good? So we did those, and I thought, okay, great.
Nowadays they just email the clips of it.
Right.
The file or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So we put it together like that, but we also had to get these guys in and out, and a lot of acts, and a lot of these acts had kids in them.
Yeah.
So they were.
So suddenly we were there. Ernie was there.
We called in everybody.
Called in everybody. It was like, you know, we need all hands on deck because this has changed, completely changed.
Yes.
Yeah. But I want to talk about my favorite moment.
Okay.
No, it's because it was so iconic. It was in the middle of one of the acts.
Yes.
And
it was just before En Vogue was supposed to.
I think it was in the middle of Trey Songz act.
Yes. It was in the middle of Trey Songz.
Trey Songz act, and all of a sudden, you see these beautifully attired young women.
Well, they did tell us just beforehand. Someone came over to me and said, "The kings have arrived."
Yeah.
The royalty has arrived.
The royalty has arrived. This was an hour into the program.
Yes.
At least. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to.
2 hours into the event and an hour into the program.
Now Trey Songz had their people here. They had brought their manager was with them. So I was able to communicate, okay, is there a way that we can signal Trey Songz to stop and do
oh yeah, I have to do that.
Do the performance, you know. So we did that, and then I had to play this song for the royalty, and the royalty came in. These people, the royalty, these are kings of different tribes from Nigeria. Now, most of them, or all of them, live in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are people who own laundromats, for instance, or fishing vessels, or, you know, whatever they do in town, they do that as a normal,
Accountants.
their accounts. They do it as their normal life. As their normal life, they're just Americans and they do their normal life. But at special times, they have these events and they dress up and they become
Gorgeous.
Royalty. And then,
and they are royalty.
Yeah.
In their own country, they are royalty.
and in their community here, because
Yes.
people come to them and ask them about certain situations in
It was literally a coming to America moment, if anybody remembers that movie. The gorgeously garbed women show up and start throwing rose petals. As they walk down the main aisle, Trey Songz was interrupted at that point and had to wait for them to sit down. And then the king and queen come in and they're taking their time.
there's several.
They're fanning themselves and they're
Yeah.
taking their time and they're looking around and they're looking for
Right.
approval from everybody. And then
Which, by the way, it was not a full house. They did not get the full house that they wanted. So, so it was maybe only a third house.
Oh, it was sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Charity groups are hard to
and
work
and
with
it's
that
too
way.
bad because I could have
We could have
filled the
filled it.
place.
We could have absolutely filled it. Yeah.
But so they have this third house and they're still looking around like this is a huge event for them.
Yeah.
And I would imagine it was. And how many kings and queens do they have?
I don't remember.
They had at least 6, I would think, couples that came down,
Yeah.
and each one came down
With their entourage.
with their entourage and their rose petals.
Then they sat down and Trey Songz went ahead with the show.
Right.
But it was like a 20-minute interruption,
Oh, yes.
you know, and it was gorgeous and it was
I think it was
surprising.
I think it was a really a bigger thrill for us than the people who were there, because they had maybe have seen it before. I don't know, but
Yeah, it was very interesting. It
yeah,
was very interesting. It was
And
like
then-
right out of the movie.
right. And then show went on, just
Show
like
went on.
nothing else had happened. And
No, you'd given Trey Songz a heads up. He was
Right.
cool. He was totally cool.
He
Everybody
was.
loved his music. And
then En Vogue started. We pulled Trey Songz off, and En Vogue did their show, and God, they were fantastic.
Beautiful.
Really
Beautiful.
fantastic.
Yeah, their harmonies were as great as ever.
Yeah. So I went out into the audience to watch En Vogue. They're one of my favorite acts. So
And then someone calls me over and I rush backstage and there's this entire dance company, Nigerian dance company. And they're like, we must go on now. And I'm like, I'm sorry, the headliner's on right now.
No, we are very important. We have to go on.
Yes, they said we must be here. And I said, well, you should have been here 3 hours ago.
No, we have to go on. And they were adamant, and it was, oh my goodness, I thought we were going to start a war. It was, they had to be shown in front of the royalty, and they had to do their show. And it was a big group.
It's like 20 people.
And so I was told by someone touched me, there is a group back there.
Yes.
And so.
And then you came, and I was backstage, and
Yeah.
you was backstage.
So Victoria's
We're all like-
backstage. I have to go over and talk to them and let them know that they can do whatever they want after En Vogue is finished.
Yes.
Anything they want after En Vogue was finished. Of course, after En Vogue was finished, the show was over.
Yeah.
You know.
We had to be diplomatic.
Oh, yes.
But there was no way we were going to disrespect En Vogue either. You know?
Yeah.
That was just not the timeline.
Yes.
It was alarming. It's like, who are you? Where did you come from?
Oh, my
20
goodness.
people show up backstage. It's
And
like,
I thought they were just going to walk on stage and push En
Yeah.
Vogue off the.
we had no lineup. We had no. I mean, they gave us nothing.
No.
Nothing. The lineup we had was the lineup we created based
Right.
on the information we had, which was our information and nobody else's.
But everything went off beautifully, and
It was a great show.
and you know what? They watched the show.
Yes.
The 20 people, they just watched the show, and they were fine afterwards.
They were fine. Yeah.
Figure they could do with their performance that they'd worked on afterwards to some other group, I guess. Anyway, show must go on every time. Thank you very much for watching. We're gonna do a really special show next week because right now we're putting together packages, and COVID-19 is in the way of everything we're doing. But but we're gonna get through it, and you're gonna find out how that happened. We're putting together 400 packages for a special client, and we have to get things from all over the place, and let's see if that happens. So we'll see you next time at Talent Goes Wild. Yes, yes. I'm making it present tense because it's going wild right now.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.